Hello everyone and welcome to today's show with sportsbookreview.com. I'm your host Lee Martin, joined today with my man, I have Dave Manyun and Matt Ryan. We're going to take a first look into UFC Fight Night, Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. But before we get into any UFC talk, like always, go ahead, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. That way you never miss a show. Now let's get to it. I'm going to start off with you, Dave. I hope you all are having a great day so far. But, Dave, I wanted you to give me a breakdown of Robert Whittaker. We're going to get into the odds later. I was just going to give you the odds. But just give me a breakdown of Robert Whittaker as a fighter.
Yeah, we'll cover everything. There's no need to worry. Wow, I really do have a love-hate relationship with these types of fights. We have Darren Till, close to home from Liverpool, around the corner from me, against the former middleweight champion in Rob Whittaker, who, is just a great guy the same way. So it's like I struggle to root for one person, but Rob Whittaker, boy, he has got a lot to offer. The former middleweight champion. I think he's on 3 performance of the night bonuses, 4 fight of the night bonuses. He won the Ultimate Fighter welterweight tournament. He is also Australia's first UFC champion amongst countless other achievements. The respect for Whittaker is there. He has earned that place. He's earned that respect in the sport. And it's hard to say bad things about Rob Whittaker, really is. Former Australian wrestling champion, and if it wasn't for his UFC commitments, he could have wrestled at the highest level. He turned down the opportunity to fight for Australia in the Olympics, wrestle for Australia in the Olympics, but his love for MMA just seemed to be more important to him, and he went on to the Ultimate Fighter show, which coincidentally was a mix of Australians and British fighters, if I remember correctly. So he's well used to the British style of fighting, and he absolutely dominated and won that tournament. I think it was Uriah Hall in the final. Correct me if I'm wrong. Rob Whittaker is probably now a handful of victories away from going down as one of the best ever. Let's not beat around the bush. Now, he did undergo surgery. His activity has dropped significantly. An abdominal hernia is not pretty, and we lost him for a year. And then, he came back. He fought the ever-evolving Israel Adesanya. And now here we are. He lost his title and he's going up against Darren Till, who's... It's only his second fight in the middleweight division, but boy, did he impress us in that first fight. So I'm so excited for this fight. It's going to be so intriguing, and what a way to end Fight Island.
Matt, now can you give me your take on Robert Whittaker? Do you agree with what Dave says? And give me your take on the injury that Dave just spoke about with Robert.
Well, Robert Whittaker, that was going to be my main point. He's had an injury history. He's had several fights postponed due to injury, including the double surgery he had to have before his fight with Kelvin Gastelum just over a year and a half, feeling like 2 years ago at this point. And for me, that is the biggest question mark. When you look at a guy like Kelvin Gastelum, you look at Max Holloway, you see guys who have Hall of Fame level resumes. When you look at the amount of people and the style of fighters that Robert Whittaker's faced inside the octagon and the amount of sacrifice he's made in his career, you can definitely say he is one of the elite. He was able to beat Jacare Souza to earn a shot at the title, at the then interim title, and then was able to show off and show out in the first fight against Yoel Romero. But that second fight against Yoel Romero was a huge question mark. It was a split decision. A lot of people thought that Romero should have won the fight, even though him and making weight are kind of the will they, won't they romance of the Ultimate Fighting Championship at 185 pounds. Last time we saw him, he got knocked out by Israel Adesanya, and this is the biggest knockout loss he's suffered to date. And we've not seen him since then. So it's all about the mental preparation for Robert Whittaker as much as the physical preparation. If his body and his mind are aligned, there's really no one that can stop him. But when you look at the injury history is going to be the big question for me heading into this fight. And, you look at the resume speaks volumes, but those little inconsistencies are going to be a huge factor in this fight, especially for someone like Till, who loves to play the mind games.
Mm-hmm. Now, Matt, I'm going to continue with you. Can you give me your take on Darren Till now as a fighter?
Well, Till coming 1-2 in his last 3. One of those, a title fight loss to Tyron Woodley. The other loss came at the hands of Street Jesus, praise his name, Jorge Masvidal, when he got knocked out at UFC London. That was one of 2 knockouts Masvidal had that evening, the other one being the 3-piece and a soda for Leon Edwards. But things are changing up for Gastelum, for Darren Till, not only as he moved back up to 185 pounds, and we saw him impress against Kelvin Gastelum on some of the worst possible conditions for a fighter at UFC 244. He was about to just walk away from the fight and probably walk away from MMA the day of the weigh-ins. He did not feel good. He was suffering from a bout of anxiety, a bout of depression, and really feeling imposter syndrome, which is a really interesting thing for a fighter, especially a fighter like Till, to really admit that. That takes a lot of courage. In a sport that's dominated by alpha males or pseudo-alpha males, you have a fighter who's basically saying, I didn't know if I could do this. But then stepping inside the octagon and having probably one of the best fights of his career on the biggest stage of his career, excluding that loss to Woodley. When you look at the construction of a 5-round fight, Till has been in quote-unquote 5-round fights before, but he's only been to championship rounds once in his career, and that was when he beat Stephen Thompson just a few years ago in what was his biggest fight to date in the UFC. Till is an entertaining fighter inside and outside the cage. He's someone that is a must-follow across social media. His photoshops are of internet legend at this point. He is a neoclassical S-hit poster for those of us who are old-school internet heads. And he's someone that could give Whittaker a problem. Adesanya, how he was able to set up Whittaker, not only because Israel Adesanya is a once-in-a-generation athlete, but he was able to get inside Whittaker's head. All the bravado, all the talk, all the and he backed it up. He was able to continue to persist and try to chip away at Whittaker's psyche. We're not seeing that all that much from Till now, but leading up in the fight week, having to be quarantined for X amount of time, being the last main event on Fight Island, there's a lot of the mental game there that Whittaker can use in the lead up to the fight to try to screw with Robert Whittaker, and I think Till could have that advantage.
Okay, now Dave, do you want to follow up with Matt? Can you give me your breakdown of Darren Till as a fighter?
Yeah, let me give you a good old English breakdown of Darren Till. Look, Liverpool won the English Premier League soccer title this season. Can Darren Till bring some gold home for the middleweight division and England? I don't know. We do need to see him more at middleweight. He made his middleweight debut against Kelvin Gastelum, which is not the easiest fight to take upon a rival, but deservingly so because Darren Till had already earned his dues in the welterweight division. And prior to his move, an unfortunate loss to Jorge Masvidal, it really was. Till found that success early on, and it seems as though he just got overconfident. And with that overconfidence came that pressure. With his unstoppable pressure came the counter-striking of Masvidal, which just put him on his backside. Now, since this move to middleweight, I must say, Till looks incredible. If you check him on the socials, you've seen him against Gastelum. He fills out very well. I don't know why he even bothered with the welterweight division. I mean, I know guys, they want that size advantage sometimes, but I think he fits perfect in the middleweight division, in my opinion. And he's just got the best people around him. He's got a great gym, great coaches. His coach is more like a father figure for him. I mean, Till, he's got one of them great cliche fighter stories. He came from not the prettiest background. He was getting into some certain altercations that weren't good for his fighting career at all. He was stabbed in the back, and I think when he was stabbed, that's what turned his life around. And his coach being there, who's still there to this day, sent him to Thailand. And now look what we have with Till. We have a guy that was in Thailand for 4 years, practiced Muay Thai, and is an elite level striker, more than ready for the UFC. And he's only aged 27 years old. Till is continuing to mature against the best fighters in the world. And, you know, yeah, he does have losses, but look who the losses have came up against. God, I love Darren Till. Obviously, you know, there's not many heavier weight fighters that we have over here. And it's okay for you, you know, you guys in America, you have an absolute selection of fighters to follow and back and support, but we are quite limited over here. And when Michael Bisping hung the gloves up, we really needed Darren Till, and he came out of nowhere and saved MMA for England. Not to disrespect Leon Edwards, but it's just two different styles of fighters. Okay, Leon Edwards he just hasn't been able to put his name on the map because, you know, his hard-working style of fighting and grinding style of fighting hasn't provided them highlight reels that gain the attention. So I'm very grateful for Darren Till, and I really do like his chances this weekend.
All right. Well,
next weekend.
Next weekend. All right. Well, let's get to the good part now. Let's talk some odds. I will read them off for you via Bet Online. We have Robert Whittaker at -120 and Darren Till at +100. Dave, I'm going to continue with you. What is your take on those odds? Do you think the pricing's right? Do you agree? Give me your take.
Right. I think, wow. I want Darren Till at around +130, +140. I do. And I do think the odds are okay, I guess. It's about evens. Even when you go to the 120s, 130s, you're still only hitting a 54, 55% implied probability, which is just close to half. They think it's a pick 'em. They don't really know. The line's going to be dictated by the public right now. But it is interesting to see the lack of movement. I mean, if we go back to Whittaker versus Adesanya, there was a 23% movement in the line in favor of Rob. Of course, he opened as -135 favorite, closed at the -11 favorite, close to pick'em. And you see the same occurrence in the second Yoel Romero fight. There was a 23% movement in the line, but that was the other way. That was a decrease. So we saw the confidence of the public in Robert Whittaker decline since those Yoel Romero fights, and, you know, justifiably so. He fought one of the greatest in the division, went to war, absolute war with him. And I can say, look, it took some considerable damage. Rob is a young dude himself, but after fighting Derek Brunson, Ronaldo Souza, Romero twice, Adesanya, he has taken some damage. So the line right now, I still would have to give it to Rob, just because he's the former champion. He is comfortable at middleweight. We know what he's like at middleweight. We know what he can do and what he can't do. Whereas Darren Till, you know, we have saw him lose, but we've saw him lose whilst he's cutting a tough weight and against welterweight fighters, which is just not a good enough sample size for me to start dictating odds. I do, like I say, I'd prefer to get Darren around +140, +150, and I think that'd be totally justified, just because of the unknowns and the variables that were presented with us in this fight.
All right, Matt, how about you? What do you think about those odds? Do you think Whittaker should be the favorite in this fight? Give me your take.
I feel like as Dave said, when it comes to resume, it's implied that Whittaker's the favorite. Former champion, elite level resume, but he is also an old 31. He's an MMA 31. Yeah. He's taken significant damage. He was hospitalized on the day of a fight because he had a collapsed bowel. That is, in terms of freak injuries, freak surgeries, that's up there on the what the hell list. Like that's top 5. That's like when the fighter in one of the early UFC pay-per-views, our main event had to be canceled because someone slipped in the locker room. That's on par with that. And when you take into the fact that decline that Dave was talking about, that 23% decline for Adesanya, and after the Romero fights, a lot of people are losing faith in Whittaker. It's because of his health. It's because of all those questions. And then you look at Darren Till. Dave said it best. The UK support their own. I have been inside Madison Square Garden for an Anthony Joshua fight, and I can tell you the United Kingdom shows up and shows out for their own, And I think you're going to see that in the line over the next few weeks. This fight hasn't gotten a lot of publicity, a lot of love because of everything else going on. If the world was normal, if mixed martial arts was running in arenas, if this card was happening, it would probably happen in the UK. I forget what card this was supposed to be because time and space don't matter anymore. But when you look at the line and you can see it's almost 50-50, Till is a guy that's going to move the line because of his ability to get people talking on the internet, because of his UK connections, and also the kid can fight. And he's got some momentum. Whittaker's going to be fighting from a more defensive position inside his own head because it's his first fight since losing the title. It's his first fight as a contender again. And also, it's a guy who's had a really rough 3 to 5 years since taking the mantle of the top middleweight in the world. He has had to deal with so many different things. He couldn't even earn the right to be undisputed champion. So that might hurt his ego a little bit. He was not able to fight Georges St. Pierre, and or even Michael Bisping. So he was handed that title. So there's a lot to prove, in my opinion, for Robert Whittaker inside his own mind. I don't mean to play pop psychologist here, but for Robert Whittaker, there's a lot on the line. And when you look at the line, I could see Whittaker being the favorite, but I see it slightly edging closer and closer to Darren Till as we get close to next Saturday night.
Now, Dave, back to you. Do you think that this fight will go the distance, or do you think we'll be in the distance? Like, how do you think this fight won?
Yeah, this one's been racking my head. It really has, because I ain't got a clue. I mean, they've both fighters have the power and the striking skill to end this very quick. But at the same time, I'm just not. It depends how they're going to come out. I'm not sure if there's going to be a certain amount of hesitancy involved. I really don't know if both guys are going to come out and just absolutely go to war. I really don't know. I mean, if we take a look at what they've done thus far, I think it's safe to say they probably will go to war. I mean, and neither guy's really held back in their previous fights. So, yeah, I don't see them holding back here. And with the striking prowess on display, I see somebody getting dropped. I do. Probably not a flash knockout, but a technical stoppage from either one of them is highly likely.
All right, Matt, do you agree with Dave, or how do you think this fight won?
These guys are not 5-round fighters, even though we've seen Robert Whittaker go to the decision against Joel Romero twice, which is insane to me. The further this fight goes, the better it is for Darren Till, even though he has not been in deep water long. As I said before, he's only had one 5-round fight that went to the end. He got the unanimous decision win, and it wasn't over a jabroni. It was against Stephen Thompson. So he can go 5 rounds. He hasn't but once inside the octagon. So Whittaker has that advantage. And also, we were talking about his injuries. Whittaker may be trying to play it slow. Will he allow himself to do that? Probably not. He's probably going to be coming out guns blazing, and if he makes it to the end of round 1, his coaches are going to yell at him. But when I look at this fight, I see two guys who have a lot to prove, and they're gonna basically try to take each other's head off. I think we're going to see a TKO. I think we're going to see a ref stoppage.
All right, and Matt, I'm going to continue with you. Can you just recap everything? And if you had to choose with your early odds, who would be your pick for the fight?
All right, well, you see, Whittaker's got all the resume advantages. Former champion, main eventer, has been to the dance before. Till, when he's been in the main event, has shown up a little bit, but in big money fights against Masvidal, against Tyron Woodley, he has faltered. Against Kelvin Gastelum back at 185, he feels refreshed, he feels renewed. And for me, that's going to be the key in this fight. I think Robert Whittaker is not where he needs to be in his head and with his body. I think he should have taken a longer break. I think he's coming back too soon, and he came back way too soon from his surgery to fight Israel Adesanya. So I'm going to be going with Darren Till here just because of all the intangibles in this fight that no one can answer. We don't know the mental state of Robert Whittaker. We don't know how the transfer to Abu Dhabi is going to be going for him. We don't know how all these little intangibles for someone who has been sick, who has had to deal with loss and continuous professional tragedy over the past 3 years, how this entire environment is going to benefit him. For Darren Till, we saw in his last fight at UFC 244, he almost didn't make it to the show. He almost didn't make it to the scale due to a planes, trains, and automobile situation. And I'm going to keep making that reference on the show. It comes down to those intangibles. And for me, Darren Till has the advantage, if not a slight one. And if he can be able to get the jump on Whittaker, we're going to have Darren Till move up at 185.
Now, Dave, I think I already know who your pick is, but can you give me your pick for the fight?
Yeah, look, Whittaker needs to pressure. He needs a pressure-based game plan for this one. He really does, because if you give Darren Till time to assess the situation while he's in that octagon, he's going to put you out quick. He needs to get inside the range of Darren Till. This is paramount. He has to interrupt that Muay Thai flow of Till. Like I just mentioned, if Till gets into that flow, he's going to get comfortable and confident like we saw early on against Masvidal, and, he might not let this one get away with it. So avoid them quick 1-2 combos from the outside range of Till is what Bobby Knuckles will need to do. But saying that, that's all Till does offer in the striking range. He doesn't really go further than a two-piece combo. I'd much prefer to see them combos taken to 4 or 5 strikes, maybe with some low kicks. But that's just Darren Till's style. Now, if all else fails for Rob and he doesn't feel comfortable in the striking department, I do wonder if he will fall back on his wrestling background. It's easy to forget how good Whittaker can be on the ground simply because of the opponents that he's faced. He has faced some high-level ground specialists. Now, look, when Rob Whittaker is taking on Yoel Romero, you're not going to see him shooting and things like that. He's not going to be going for the wrestling tactic. But against a guy like Till, we saw what happened against Tyrone Woodley. Woodley took him down and he punched his face. It was not a hard task for him. Woodley hit that right and put him clean out. I really don't know if Whittaker's gonna have his head in the game. I don't know how his health is right now. I'm not sure if he's feeling like a champion or if he's feeling like a bum. So as of now, and it is early, we still have a week to go, and there's a bit more research to be done. But as of now, I do have to favour Till. I think he's going to have the speed advantage. He's going to have a slight reach advantage. And his timing is what makes Till the guy to put your money on for me. His distant management is great. It's something else. He reads that range perfectly. And to be fair, it's probably one of Till's highlight skills, in my opinion. He pressures himself. He pressures early. But, he needs to be careful, as we saw with the Jorge fight. That overconfidence cost him, and a little bit more composure would have certainly helped Till defeat Masvidal, in my opinion. That Thai boxing stance is where he's at home, obviously. And then, that right-left combo is so quick, it's hard to even break down. You have to hit that space bar a couple of times when you're breaking down his fights. He looks so good at middleweight against Gastelum, but as I mentioned earlier, there's so many variables with this middleweight division right now. There's a lot of questions to be answered, and I feel like we will get our answers by the end of the year. It's really heating up. I don't think it's a stable division for anyone, including the champion Adesanya, because he's going to be facing a guy in Paulo Costa who I think offers a perfect stylistic offense to shut down Adesanya. You can't let that guy hang around, much like Darren Till. Now, I will say something as well. Darren Till wants to fight Israel. Doesn't matter about the title. Doesn't care about that. He wants to fight him because these two were meant to meet on their come up. During their Thai days and the kickboxing days, they were meant to have a fight. I believe it was cancelled or something happened when they were both on the regional scene. But I think that stuck with Till. And when Till sees the guy he was supposed to fight holding the championship that he hasn't managed to take yet, I think that rubs him up the wrong way. So in an idealistic world, Darren Till wins, Israel beats Paulo Costa, and that sets up Darren Till versus Israel. But we could also see Costa win, Till lose, and then they face each other that way too. I'm really looking forward to the future of the middleweight division, because it's starting to stack up right now in a division that was quite lackluster a few years ago when Chris Weidman was running rings around people.
All right, well, there we have it. So for early odds, we have Till on both sides. And that is all that I have for UFC Fight Night, Whittaker versus Till. So thank you guys so much for dropping your knowledge and taking the time to talk with me. If you are not following the guys on Twitter, definitely give Dave a follow at @dmanion_ and give Matt a follow at @mryan consulting. And also, if you're not following SBR on Twitter and Instagram, definitely give us a follow at SBR Sports Picks. Well, also, I do need to say, definitely tune in next week for our entire main card breakdown for Whittaker versus Till. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time.